Welcome to the Israel Daily News Podcast. I'm your host, Shanna Fold, and I'm here to get you caught up quickly. I've got some top news stories for you today from Israel, and guess what? You're listening, so you're already on top of your game. Survive and thrive, people. Knowledge is the best weapon. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025 in the Gregorian calendar and the 3rd of Av in the Hebrew calendar. Stay tuned for the end of the show because we did not include a Thursday Torah thought from Rabbi Yossi Madvig. Better late than never. If you want some inspiration, we have it now. You can get a bite at the end of today's show about last week's Torah portion. Now, let's get to the news. Following immense international pressure and repeated front-page news coverage about the deprivation and starvation in Gaza, the IDF has announced a major expansion of humanitarian aid efforts in Gaza while continuing their combat operations against Hamas. The IDF, for their part, reports Hamas has been routinely robbing civilians of aid packages since the beginning of the war, taking the aid for themselves or selling it to people instead of simply administering it and selling it at a very high price. Early Sunday, July 27th, the Israeli army carried out a humanitarian aid airdrop into Gaza, the first operation of its kind by Israel since the beginning of the war. The international community has done this at times in the past. The military says this airdrop was authorized by political leadership and is part of ongoing efforts to expand humanitarian access to the Strip. In parallel, new humanitarian corridors will allow UN aid convoys to deliver supplies safely through designated areas. In related news, construction is underway on a new water pipeline that will deliver desalinated water from Egypt to the Al-Mawazi area in southern Gaza, home to around 600,000 Palestinians. The project, approved by Israel, is being led by the United Arab Emirates and will operate independently from Israel's current water infrastructure. Work on the pipeline is expected to begin within days and take several weeks to complete. Israel also reconnected a major water line to a desalination plant, increasing fresh water supply for some 900,000 people in need. The IDF continues to reject claims that they are deliberately starving Gazans, stating that Hamas has weaponized humanitarian narratives for propaganda purposes. A UN report warns that nearly 9% of Gazan children screened this month suffer from severe malnutrition, with 20 deaths this year amid chaotic aid conditions, prompting European Union pressure on Israel to improve the flow of aid. Prime Minister Netanyahu, speaking out at a Christian conference in Jerusalem just a couple days ago, firmly rejected claims that Israel is deliberately starving civilians in Gaza. He stated that since the war began in October 2023, Israel has allowed 1.9 million tons of humanitarian aid into the territory, meeting their obligations under international law. The Israeli Navy intercepted the activist boat Handala, officially called the Navarne, and routed it into the Ashdod port on Sunday after it attempted to breach the maritime blockade on Gaza. All 21 people aboard, including 19 activists and 2 Al Jazeera journalists, came into Israel safely through the Ashdod port in the south. 3 activists from the Gaza-bound flotilla intercepted by Israel, including a U.S. citizen, an Italian national, and French member of parliament, agreed to be deported. 12 other foreign activists, including another French lawmaker, Emma Farrow, refused to sign deportation papers and remain in Israel detention as they await hearings. In Israeli detention, 4 additional detainees, among them 2 journalists from Al Jazeera, are being represented by private attorneys. Israel's foreign ministry condemned the voyage, said it was dangerous, illegal, and disrupting the flow of aid into Gaza. France's foreign minister is requesting answers from the CEO of Spanish airline Vueling after its crew made a group of French Jewish teenagers get off the plane during a flight in Spain. The incident took place last Wednesday when Spanish civil guards removed the teens from a flight out of Valencia, which, according to Vueling, was due to safety concerns. Witnesses on the flight, however, have challenged the claim, stating the teens behaved appropriately and were likely singled out for wearing visible Jewish symbols like yarmulkes, or a head covering. Spain's transport minister Oscar Puente called the teens, quote, Israeli brats, in a social media post that was since deleted. This added to the fuel of controversy as the teens were French citizens, and Jewish groups and human rights advocates across Europe are condemning those remarks as anti-Semitic and discriminatory. Following the incident, France has summoned the Spanish ambassador in Paris and is pursuing a full investigation into whether the removal was based on religious identity. The video is what really drew so much attention to this story. Following the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, at least 35 Jews, including 2 American citizens, have been detained in Iran on suspicion of spying for Israel, according to a report from a Khan News public broadcaster. The 2 Americans reportedly both traveled to Iran in pursuit of visiting family members before their arrests. One of the Americans who was recently released on bail is a Jewish man from Los Angeles who has Iranian heritage. The second, who left Iran for New York 3 decades ago, continues to be held in prison. Again, they say that they were visiting family members still in Iran. According to an unidentified source involved in efforts to secure their release from the Times of Israel news site, quote, the 2 Americans arrived in the wrong place at the wrong time, end quote. In the past few days, Iranian authorities have arrested 11 members of the local Jewish community who had been accused of espionage. According to Khan News here in Israel, 5 Jews still remain in custody on similar charges. The situation raises concerns regarding the safety of Jews traveling to or living in Iran amid regional tensions. I want to thank all of you for your interest in Israeli affairs. Israeli politics are world politics. I also want to thank all of you who personally finance and fund the Israel Daily News podcast with monthly contributions. You can support us by going over to our website, israeldailynews.org, and clicking on donate. The Patreon link is over there, and you can also send a one-time donation. Our organization is operational thanks to listeners and supporters like you. Thank you to Marianne Vollinger for her monthly support. In response for your contributions, I'll send over a handwritten thank you note to show my appreciation. You can follow us on social media at israeldaily.news. We are on X, YouTube, TikTok, and on Instagram. Our page recently hit 38,000 followers. You can also follow my personal page at Shanna Fold. My name has 2 N's in it, and I'm very sensitive about that. Israeli archaeologists have discovered one of the world's oldest known burial sites in the region, and it's in the Tin Shemet cave, located in central Israel. The site contains bodies in fetal position, dating back nearly 100,000 years. Researchers also uncovered animal bones and tools, along with other objects that appear to have been brought from distant locations that may have served ritual purposes, suggesting a symbolic burial. Since the discovery, experts are still determining whether the remains belong to Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, or a mix of both. According to experts from Hebrew University, the site's excavation shows an amazing revolutionary innovation for our species. Following the findings, researchers believe the site highlights how early humans started to relate to death and spirituality. I love archaeological and anthropological stories like these, especially from this region. Don't you? We apologize that we did not include a Torah thought for last week's Parsha, or portion in English. If you still want to get some inspiration, listen to a Torah thought by Rabbi Yossi Madvig of Oswego, New York, from last week. We're handing it over to you today.
This week's Torah portion is actually a double portion, matot and maseh. Matot means like staff, a rod. It also is an allusion to the tribes of Israel. And maseh is the journeys that Israel goes on through the desert. I'm going to focus primarily on the first Torah portion of Matot, and it's always read during the 3 weeks where we mourn the destruction of the Holy Temple, which is when we were plunged physically and spiritually into the exile which we currently find ourselves. And it's not surprising that the name of the parsha contains a message of inspiration that helps us overcome the difficulties of the exile. So there's two terms that are used to refer to the tribes of Israel. One is shvatim and one is matot. The difference is that matot are branches referring to like a staff, like a tribal leader has a staff or something like that. Matot are branches that are detached from the tree and have hardened into like a staff or a rod. Shvatim can refer to branches as they still remain attached to the tree and are more soft and flexible. Well, Hasidic thought teaches that the branch and the rod allude to the soul's development as it passes from heaven into earth as it dwells inside of a body. In heaven, the soul is like completely attached to God, like a branch that's attached to the tree. And before going on its mission, the soul is immature. It's never really faced any obstacles that challenge its relationship to God. And so it therefore never enjoyed that additional bonding that is brought to a relationship when you overcome challenges. And therefore, its hidden reserves of power that are granted to the soul to overcome those situations have been untapped and undiscovered. But when the soul is placed in a body on earth, in times of exile and challenges, like a branch that's detached from the tree, so then the soul loses that effortless emotional connection to God, and it finds itself in a world that's completely against holiness and truth. But we're promised that with effort, that tender, immature branch will harden and become firm, like a rod that's unbending and in its dedication to God and Torah. So the Parsha of Matot teaches that God has given us the ability to live according to the Torah under all circumstances. It's just a matter of our will and determination, since potentially we have the full capacity to live up to what God wants. We just have to reach in and tap those reserves of a relationship that is challenging, and then we'll be completely and utterly united with godliness. Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Well, that is it for today's show. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025. Tel Aviv has a low of 27 degrees Celsius and a high of 31 degrees. That's 81 degrees Fahrenheit for the low, going up to 87 degrees for the high. We are everywhere. Don't forget to sign up to our Israel Weekly News Wrap. The Israel Weekly News Wrap is a newsletter with the top 5 stories coming out of Israel from throughout the week. And of course, there's a personal note from me at the top. You can sign up for that at israeldailynews.org. Scroll down to the bottom and put your email address in the slot down there, and you'll be signed up for the paper. Of course, these days I'm talking about my struggles in recording in new situations and new studios. My home was blown up by an Iranian missile just over a month ago, and I'm looking for a new home. I'm having a lot of challenges. In fact, just this morning, I came to my home to find that I had actually been robbed for a second time. It seems that looters, thieves got in through the window that is broken and busted through of my apartment, and they stole the air conditioning units off my wall, ripped them right out. And when I came to the apartment this morning to take a look inside, I saw some of my cosmetics and things like that I had left in the apartment strewn across the entranceway, and that was my first sign that let me know that people have been in there. Unfortunately, the store next to where I live, which is an electronics store, was looted as well. And it's been a very tumultuous time here at the Israel Daily News. Nevertheless, this work is a big joy for me, and I love to bring the news from Israel to you. So stick with us here at the Israel Daily News while we roll through the punches. We might have a new studio soon, but you just gotta stick with us through the process. I'm gonna send you off now with a song called Trust Me by Erica Kroll. Enjoy her song and have a great and productive day and an excellent week. Shavua Tov, everyone.